come here believing that being nice is a virtue so pure that no shadow can taint it. But I must tell you the unsettling truth. Your niceness is often not kindness at all, but fear in disguise. The persona you present to the world, that smiling, compliant, ever-accommodating mask, is not who you truly are. It is the costume you wear to avoid conflict, to avoid being seen as flawed, to avoid the terrifying mirror that others hold up when you dare to reveal your true face. I tell you this not to shame you, but to awaken you. For the soul that clings to a false mask suffocates in its own unspoken darkness. When I speak of darkness, I do not mean evil. Darkness is simply the part of you that has not been illuminated. It is the unspoken anger, the untamed desire, the primal impulses that society, your family, your religion have told you must be exiled. You bury them so deeply that you begin to believe they do not exist. And yet, like forgotten spirits, they haunt your dreams. They emerge in moments when your politeness cracks. They show themselves in the irrational hatred you feel towards someone who mirrors what you fear in yourself. Do you see how the mask of niceness is not a virtue, but a defense mechanism? It is a wall built to keep your shadow locked away, as if the unconscious could be imprisoned. But the unconscious cannot be chained. It leaks out like water through the smallest cracks, shaping your life in ways you do not understand. The tragedy of this false niceness is that it robs you of authenticity. You think you are loved for your good behavior, but you are not loved. You are tolerated as a surface. People cannot truly love what they cannot truly see. When you are only the pleasant mask, your relationships are shallow mirrors reflecting nothing but politeness back and forth. You may gain approval, but approval is not love. Approval is the lifeless substitute for intimacy. To be truly loved, you must allow yourself to be seen, not just the agreeable persona, but the whole being, including the chaos, the wounds, the raw humanity that trembles inside you. I have observed in my patients that the more they cling to this image of being nice, the more resentment burns beneath the surface. The shadow grows restless. It rebels in secret ways through sudden explosions of anger, through self-sabotage, through the mysterious illnesses that manifest when a soul is too long denied its truth. The body keeps the score of everything you refuse to face. That smile you wear is not free. It costs you energy. It drains your vitality, because you must constantly suppress the natural impulses that want to live and breathe within you. When I say you are not a nice person, I do not mean you are cruel or malevolent. I mean that you are not a one-dimensional being. You are complex. You are capable of love and rage, creation and destruction. To be human is to carry both the divine and the demonic within your own psyche. The refusal to see this truth, to accept your own contradictions, is what makes your life feel hollow. You play the role of the saint while secretly feeling like a fraud. Deep down, you know there is more to you than what you allow the world to see. And yet, the idea of exposing this more, this deeper Messier self, terrifies you. Why? Because you have been conditioned to fear rejection. As a child, you learned that love is conditional, that you are rewarded for being quiet, pleasing. Good. You were punished or shamed for expressing anger, sadness, defiance. And so you began to amputate parts of yourself, believing that if you only showed the acceptable parts, you would be safe. But this safety is an illusion. It is a safety of a bird in a cage, wings clipped, singing a song that is not its own. The work of individuation, the journey I have devoted my life to understanding, is precisely about reclaiming those exiled parts. It is about opening the door to the shadow and inviting it into consciousness. This is not an easy task. Your shadow will not knock politely. It will arrive like a storm, bringing with it memories, emotions, instincts you would rather forget. But if you have the courage to sit with this storm, to witness the truth of what you have denied, you will discover something extraordinary. The shadow is not your enemy. The shadow is your teacher. It carries within it the energy you need to become whole. When you face your shadow, your niceness will transform into something real. No longer will you be driven by fear of disapproval. No longer will you say yes when your soul screams no. You will become kind, not because you are afraid to hurt others, but because you have touched the darkness within you and learned compassion for the darkness in others. True kindness is born from knowing the depths of your own soul. It is forged in the fire of self-confrontation. Think of the archetype of the hero. The hero is never truly heroic until he has faced the dragon, the terrifying symbol of his own unconscious. Your dragon may not breathe fire, but it whispers in your mind, reminding you of the truth you do not want to face: your jealousy, your rage, your suppressed desire to dominate, to rebel, to break free. If you do not face this dragon, it will rule you from the shadows. You will call yourself nice, but you will feel powerless. You will live your life as a reaction to fear, not as an expression of your soul's authentic power. I want you to imagine for a moment that you step into a dark room. At first, you can see nothing. Your instinct is to flee, to turn back to the comfort of light. But if you stay, if you allow your eyes to adjust, you begin to see shapes in the darkness. You realize that what you feared is not a monster, but a part of you, a forgotten child. A wounded animal, a fragment of your own story that has been waiting to be acknowledged. When you pick it up, when you hold it close, you feel a surge of energy, a strange and holy power. This is what happens when you integrate your shadow. I tell you this because I have seen too many lives wasted in the pursuit of false goodness. Niceness is not a goal worth striving for. Wholeness is. To be whole is to embrace the full spectrum of who you are: light and shadow, love and anger, creation and destruction. When you stop pretending to be nice and start becoming real, your life will ignite with meaning. The persona will fall away, and what remains will be the living truth of your being. You may be afraid of losing people if you show this truth. Yes, some will leave, but those who remain will love you in ways you have never known. They will love you not for your mask, but for your soul. And there is no love greater than that which sees all of you and still says yes. Do you feel how the word nice carries with it the weight of submission? It is not a word that sets the heart on fire. It does not speak of the raw pulse of life. The ecstatic dance between shadow and light that defines our humanity, it is lukewarm, safe, agreeable, a word that lives at the surface, while the depths of your soul remain untouched. When you insist on being nice, you build walls not just around your shadow, but also around your true vitality. You dull the sharp edges of your being, and in doing so, you suffocate the very fire that could make you alive. The unconscious does not tolerate this suppression forever. It will speak through symbols, through dreams that shake you awake at night, through the strange compulsions that make you act against your better judgment. Have you ever found yourself lashing out, saying something cruel or impulsive, and later wondering, where did that come from? It comes from the places you refuse to see. The more you deny your anger, your lust, your jealousy, the more these forces find hidden ways to express themselves. What is repressed does not vanish. It transforms, often into something far more destructive than if it had been acknowledged. Consider the archetype of the trickster, a shadow figure that appears in myths across cultures. The trickster is mischievous, unpredictable, chaotic. It disrupts order, exposing the lies we live by in your life. The trickster manifests when the mask of niceness cracks. Perhaps you sabotage your own success, or you provoke conflicts, you claim to hate. You do these things unconsciously because a part of you is tired of living inauthentically. The trickster, though unsettling, is not an enemy. It is a messenger from the shadow, reminding you that truth and chaos are intertwined. It urges you to break free from the prison of politeness and step into the untamed realm of your true self. What would happen if you stopped trying to be nice? This question terrifies many of you. You fear that without the mask, you will be rejected, abandoned, cast out from the tribe. But consider, this is the love you receive for being nice. Truly love, or is it a transaction? Do people care for you because of who you are, or because you make their lives easier by always agreeing, by never challenging them, by silencing your own needs? There is a deep loneliness in this kind of life. You are surrounded by people, yet unseen. You give and give and give, but inside you feel empty because no one is touching your real self. To confront your shadow is to reclaim your power. So this is not a power over others, but a power within the power, to say no without guilt, to express anger without violence, to embrace desire without shame. When you integrate your shadow, you become whole, and wholeness is magnetic. People will sense something unshakable in you, something alive. You will no longer need to be nice to be accepted. You will stand in your truth. And those who are meant to walk with you will come drawn not to your mask, but to your authenticity. Dreams are one of the clearest mirrors of the shadow. When you dream of arguments, of violent encounters, of strange figures who frighten or seduce you, these are often projections of your own unacknowledged emotions. The dream world is the theater of the soul. There, your shadow speaks in symbols, sometimes grotesque, sometimes divine, A dream of fire might reveal suppressed anger or passion. A dream of falling might show you where you are clinging to control. To understand your dreams is to enter a dialogue with your unconscious, to listen to the voice of the self that you have ignored during waking life. Niceness kills dreams because it teaches you to avoid conflict, and conflict is the forge where transformation occurs. Without conflict, inner and outer, there is no growth. The alchemists of old understood this. They spoke of the nigredo, the blackening, the dark night of the soul that must be endured before gold can be made. This blackening is the confrontation with your shadow. It feels like death, because it is the death of the false self, but only when this false self dissolves can the true self emerge. Many people spend their entire lives avoiding the nigredo. They distract themselves with work, with entertainment, with the endless pursuit of approval. They tell themselves they are good, they are kind, they are nice, but underneath a storm rages. And when life forces them to face that storm through loss, betrayal, illness, they are unprepared. They collapse because they have not built the inner strength that comes from knowing who they truly are. To know yourself is not to catalog your strengths and weaknesses like a resume. It is to descend into the depths of your own psyche and witness the archetypes that shape you. It is to recognize the mother, the father, the lover, the warrior, the shadow, the wise old man, all these figures that live within you and influence your choices. When you are nice, you identify with only one archetype, the caretaker, the servant, the pleasing persona, but you are far more than this. You carry the archetype of the warrior who must sometimes fight. You carry the archetype of the lover who desires with passion. You carry the archetype of the destroyer who must tear down the old to make way for the new. Do you see how dangerous it is to deny these forces? The warrior, when repressed, does not vanish. It becomes passive, aggressive, bitter, cowardly. The lover, when suppressed, turns into obsession or numbness. The destroyer, when denied, manifests as self-sabotage, as the quiet erosion of your own happiness. Niceness is not neutral. It is the slow poison of the soul when it is used as a shield against the fullness of life. And so I ask you again, what lies beneath your smile? What emotions have you buried so deeply that you no longer feel them, except as a vague restlessness, a quiet despair? When you meet someone who is unafraid of their own shadow, do you envy them, or do you judge them as too intense, too much? Perhaps what you judge in them is what you secretly crave the freedom to be real, unfiltered, alive. There is a profound liberation that comes when you drop the act of niceness. At first, it feels like chaos. You may not know how to speak, how to act, because you have spent so long editing yourself for others. But slowly, as you listen to your own soul, you begin to find a voice that is strong, even when it trembles. You begin to feel emotions fully, not as threats, but as guides. Anger becomes a signal of violated boundaries. Sadness becomes an invitation to release. Desire becomes the fire of creation, not the source of shame. The shadow, once integrated, becomes your ally It sharpens your intuition because you are no longer blinded by self-deception. It deepens your compassion because you see that every person is struggling with their own darkness. It fuels your creativity because the unconscious is the source of all great art, all true innovation. The most powerful works of humanity, myths, paintings, symphonies were born not from being nice, but from daring to confront the wild, untamed forces within. You must ask yourself, do you want to live a life of shallow comfort? Or do you want to touch the depths of your own existence? The first path is easy but hollow. The second is difficult, even dangerous, but it is the only path that leads to true meaning. When you step beyond the comfort of being nice, the first sensation is often fear. You fear that the people around you will not understand. You fear that they will call you selfish, difficult, unkind. But I tell you, there is nothing more unkind than living a lie. When you deny the truth of who you are, and you not only harm yourself, but also deprive the world of the unique force that your soul was meant to bring. The world does not need more nice people. It needs whole people, people who have confronted their inner chaos and emerged with the kind of authenticity that transforms everything it touches. I've often said that what we do not make conscious will appear in our lives as fate. This is the secret power of the shadow. You think you are in control, that your niceness is the reason people treat you a certain way. But beneath the surface, the shadow orchestrates your relationships, your career, your choices. It is as though you are being led by invisible strings, repeating the same patterns again and again, drawing to yourself the same kind of lovers, the same kind of conflicts, the same disappointments. This is not coincidence. It is the unconscious seeking to become conscious. It is your shadow longing for recognition. Imagine for a moment a woman who prides herself on being endlessly generous. She never says no. She is always there to help. She sacrifices her own needs to make others comfortable. Outwardly, people praise her. She's such a nice person. But inside, she feels drained, resentful, even angry feelings she does not allow herself to acknowledge. One day, she explodes. Perhaps she shouts at someone she loves, or she quits a job suddenly, or she falls into a depression that she cannot explain. This is the shadow's way of breaking through the mask. What would happen if, instead of clinging to the idea of being nice, she admitted the truth, that she is tired, that she wants to be seen, that she has her own desires and boundaries. She would lose some approval. Yes, but she would gain her soul. The process of facing your shadow is like descending into the underworld. It is not a polite journey. It is not about maintaining the image of being a good person. It is about tearing down the walls you have built to protect yourself and discovering the raw, unfiltered essence beneath. This descent can feel like death because it requires you to let go of everything you thought you were. But what dies is only the false self. The real self, the one that is fierce, loving, creative, and whole, is waiting beneath the surface, longing to emerge. In the collective psyche, we see this same struggle. Our culture glorifies the persona, the curated image we present to the world. Social media is filled with smiles, perfect photos, endless performances of happiness and kindness. But beneath the surface of this collective niceness is a rising tide of rage, loneliness, and despair. We are all wearing masks, and we wonder why we feel disconnected. We are connected through images, but not through truth. The shadow is ignored, and so it erupts in destructive ways in violence, in addiction, in the breakdown of relationships. If we do not face our own darkness, the darkness of the world will overwhelm us. You might think that facing the shadow will make you less loving, but the opposite is true. When you acknowledge your own darkness, you stop projecting it onto others. You no longer need to hate the bad people because you see that what you hate in them is often a reflection of what you deny in yourself. This is one of the most difficult truths to accept, that what triggers you in another person is often a mirror of your own unconscious. When you feel a surge of judgment or disgust, ask yourself, what does this awaken in me? What part of my own shadow is being shown to me through this person? This is not about excusing harmful behavior, but about understanding the deep interconnectedness of the psyche. Projection is one of the shadow's favorite games. You meet someone and think they are cool, arrogant, manipulative. Sometimes they are, but often your reaction is intensified because something in them resonates with something in you, something you do not want to admit. For example, you might see someone who is unapologetically confident and label them as arrogant, when in truth you are angry because you have suppressed your own confidence for fear of being judged. The shadow teaches us through these mirrors, if we are brave enough to look, niceness thrives on projection. When you strive to be nice, you push your shadow onto others. You see them as difficult or toxic because you cannot admit that you too have those tendencies. But what if you stopped running from this truth? What if you could say, yes, I have anger. Yes, I have selfishness. Yes, I have desires that are not always pure. In that moment, you begin to integrate the shadow. It no longer controls you from the dark because you have brought it into the light of awareness. This is the essence of true self-love, not the superficial affirmation that says, I am good, I am perfect, but the deep acceptance that says, I am both light and dark, and I embrace all of it. When you can hold both the saint and the sinner within yourself, you become whole. You no longer need to hide behind the mask of niceness because you have nothing to hide. You are not pretending to be good, you are simply being real. Let us return to the language of dreams. For the unconscious speaks to us most clearly there. A dream of being chaste often represents a part of yourself. You are avoiding, perhaps you dream of a monster, a dark figure, or even a wild animal pursuing you. This is often the shadow trying to catch up to you, to make itself known. If you turn and face it in the dream or even in waking life, you will discover that it holds a gift. Behind the mask of terror is often a source of energy, creativity, or insight that you have been missing. The same is true in life. When you stop running from your darkness, you find that it is not a curse, but a source of profound wisdom. Your niceness, in many ways, is the greatest barrier to this wisdom. It keeps you trapped in the superficial. It tells you, do not make waves, do not confront, Do not feel too deeply. But the soul was not born to be nice. The soul was born to awaken, to explore, to embrace the full spectrum of existence. And awakening is not always gentle. It often begins with chaos, with the shattering of illusions. You, my loose friends, jobs, relationships, when you step into your truth. But what you gain is infinitely greater, the deep peace of knowing who you are and the unshakable power that comes with it. I have witnessed this transformation countless times. A man who always sought approval from his family finally faced his resentment and anger. And for the first time, he spoke his truth. He was terrified that they would reject him. Instead, they began to respect him. Why? Because people do not truly respect those who only aim to please. They respect those who have the courage to stand in their own authenticity. Another woman who had lived her whole life as a caretaker discovered through shadow work that she was hiding a fierce creative fire. When she allowed herself to express it, she became alive in a way she had never been. Her relationships changed, some ending, others deepening. She no longer needed to be nice to be loved, she was loved for being real. This is what I want for you, to break free from the prison of false goodness, to allow yourself to feel the full range of your emotions, even when they scare you, to understand that your darkness does not make you unworthy, it makes you human. And in embracing it, you become something far greater than nice. You become whole. There is a certain beauty in watching a person shed the suffocating weight of niceness. It is as if a pale mask falls to the floor, and beneath it emerges a face that is alive, full of light and shadow, sorrow and joy, strength and vulnerability. When you stop trying to be nice, if you stop trying to control how others perceive you, you begin to live with the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to be disliked. And in that space of raw honesty, you become magnetic in a way that no performance could ever achieve. Niceness is the art of pleasing others, but authenticity is the art of liberating your soul. When you embrace your shadow, you discover that the parts of yourself you thought were unacceptable are often the very sources of your power. Your anger, when integrated, becomes a fierce protector of your boundaries. Your fear, when understood, becomes a guide toward growth. Your selfishness, when balanced, teaches you the importance of self-respect. These elements, when repressed, distort your life. When accepted, they create harmony. You are not here to erase your darkness, but to dance with it, to integrate it into a larger wholeness that shines precisely because of its contrast. The archetype of the warrior teaches us this lesson. The warrior is not nice. The warrior is fierce, but that fierceness is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the strength to say no when needed, to confront injustice, to stand for truth, even when it is uncomfortable. If you only live as a nice caretaker, you lose this archetypal power. You become a passive shadow of yourself. But when you awaken the warrior within, your kindness goes deeper, because it is rooted in strength, not fear. You can give love without losing yourself, because you have learned to protect the core of who you are. To live in truth is to walk a path of paradox, You must hold both the light and the shadow within you. You must be capable of both gentleness and fierce honesty. To deny one side of yourself is to live a half-life. Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is the heart of shadow work. As long as you cling to the persona of being nice, your life is not truly your own. You are living according to the expectations of others, reacting to their needs and judgments. But when you bring your shadow into the light, when you see it and claim it as your own, you begin to act from your true center. Think of your life as a dream. In dreams, we meet characters that are often frightening or strange, but they are all parts of us. Same is true in waking life. The people who trigger you, who stir anger or jealousy, are often mirrors of the parts of you that remain hidden. This is why relationships are such powerful arenas for transformation. They show us what we cannot see in ourselves. If you have the courage to look at these mirrors, to ask what your reactions reveal about your own unconscious, you will uncover layers of truth that no amount of surface level niceness could ever reach. But this work is not easy. It is often painful. You may find yourself grieving the years you spent living behind a mask. You may feel anger at the systems, family, culture, religion that taught you to repress your true self. Yet this pain is sacred. It is the pain of awakening, the pain of being reborn. Every wound you uncover holds within it a fragment of your soul that has been waiting to return to you. When you welcome these fragments home, you become whole, and wholeness is a power that no one can take from you. You must understand that wholeness is not perfection. It is not about eliminating flaws or achieving some ideal state. Wholeness is about embracing the totality of who you are, the contradictions, the wounds, the desire, the dreams. When you can stand in your truth without needing to be liked or approved of, you are free. You are no longer a slave to the persona. You are no longer drained by the endless performance of being nice. You can love others fiercely because you have learned to love yourself, not just the parts that are easy to love, but the shadow as well. This journey requires courage. It requires a willingness to confront the lies you have been told and the lies you have told yourself. The biggest lie of all is that you are only good if you are agreeable, if you never upset anyone, if you sacrifice yourself for the comfort of others. This is not goodness. This is self-betrayal. True goodness arises when you live in alignment with your soul. Sometimes this means saying things that others do not want to hear. Sometimes it means walking away from relationships that no longer serve your growth. Sometimes it means standing alone. But the peace that comes from living your truth is worth more than all the approval in the world. I want you to imagine a life where you no longer have to pretend, a life where you wake up and feel free to speak your truth, to express your feelings, to pursue what truly matters to you. A life where you no longer wear the mask of niceness, but instead live with integrity, knowing that even your darkness has a place in the great tapestry of your being. This is the life that shadow integration offers. It is not an easy path, but it is the only path that leads to real freedom. When you look back on your life, Do you want to say that you were nice? Or do you want to say that you were real, that you lived with courage, that you touched the depths of your own soul, and in doing so, touched the souls of others? Niceness is forgotten, but authenticity leaves a mark that lasts beyond a lifetime. So I ask you now, with all the weight of this moment, are you ready to stop being nice? Are you ready to face the shadow that waits within you, to let it teach you what you have feared to know? Are you ready to become whole? Close your eyes and imagine stepping into that darkness. Feel the fear rise, but do not turn away. Walk deeper. Listen. There is a voice waiting for you there, the voice of your true self. It does not ask you to be nice. It asks you to be honest. It asks you to be brave. It asks you to live fully and without apology. When you answer that call, you will no longer need to hide. You will no longer live for approval or fear rejection. You will stand as a whole being flawed, radiant, alive, and in that wholeness, you will find a love for life that no mask could ever give you. This is the path, this is the work, and it begins the moment you stop saying, I must be nice, and start saying, I will be true